Hey everyone, wanted to actually do a quick follow-up video on my earlier review of the ROCCAT Vulcan keyboard. And now, as everyone may know from a couple of review videos I've done, I've actually got my hands on two of them, the 122, which I have right here, and the 121, which is that keyboard right back there, hiding right there. So I actually did do a follow-up video just a couple of weeks after owning the keyboard for some time, follow up on some feedback I've gotten, and answer any questions I may have gotten as well too over those few weeks, few months of use. But I actually wanted to do one more follow-up now that it's been a good 6 or 8 months since I've actually gotten my hands on the first keyboard, in this case the ROCCAT Vulcan 122. The 121 came by about I would say 2 weeks later, unfortunately due to an unexpected delay. And just actually do a quick follow-up. Some more feedback has been coming in regarding some concerns of peeling, just other concerns of issues, whether some keycaps have been breaking. Fortunately, they haven't. But I actually want to do a little more thorough and give you a really quick view of a keyboard, a ROCCAT Vulcan keyboard right here, after months and months of use. May have mentioned it before, but this keyboard actually is being used in a workplace right now, so very heavily used on spreadsheets, emails, web browsing, just your everyday stuff, mostly emails and whatnot. And have been using this keyboard extensively there, much more than the 121 right up here that I've been using more in the home use and some gaming as well too. So get a nice little close look over here. I can definitely let you know that there hasn't been any peeling on the keys, as some people have been concerned, and maybe earlier variations and versions of a revision of this keyboard may have had that particular issue. Now, in terms of peeling, just around here, I can actually try to focus in, of course unless I know exactly where it is. Yep, right on the L key. I'll try focusing a little bit better over here. But there is actually a little bit of a kind of a peelish kind of a gray looking color right on the side here. You might be able to actually see it. So I can't really tell. This actually appeared maybe I would say maybe a good 2.5 months into using this keyboard. I'm not sure, maybe at one point I was just using having longer fingernails than I have right now. May have accidentally just been brushing against the edge and maybe had this little piece come off here. Now, as you can see, I'm kind of brushing along here as well too. I can feel, it almost feels like a little bit of a chip paint kind of feeling you would get when actually brushing your finger or a nail, particularly here, or something sharp. So it looks like a little piece has come off there. However, definitely nothing as bad as some people would have mentioned, where the entire chips are coming off the keys here, that the point that the letters are basically just indistinguishable. You get nothing but like a clear shell once the paint's actually gone. And you can actually get a slightly close-up look here of all the keys and see that that's probably the only little exception so far. The other thing I can definitely mention as well too, you probably already noticed, and I can definitely there's that annoying sound again. This, whenever you move this keyboard, it just gives that frictiony bounce up and down feeling. But you can definitely see the shine on the spacebar right over here. A little bit of reflection. I do have a LED light aiming right at this keyboard just so you can get a really close view of it. So if it's a little reflective, I do apologize for that. Obviously this aluminum feeling here is probably reflecting a little bit. But also want to give you the feeling that as well too, a good and pretty good view here of, yes, these keys do eventually suffer from that basically shiny feeling once using the keyboard for a very extensively long time. Obviously, naturally, our body has some oil on it, and eventually that does get on the keys and rubs off and basically starts giving that funny feeling of that shiny keyboard. If anyone's ever been in a corporate workplace, or you just had a keyboard for many years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Eventually that gets so bad that even the actual keys, letters themselves, begin to just slowly start to disappear. And that's already a sign you should basically replace that little $10-15 keyboard if you are using one. But even though it does actually have that shiny effect, none of the keys are in any condition that I won't be able to actually tell what they are, what they were in this case. And the spacebar over here, you can still see the center. Particularly, it has affected the center of this key, the space key over here, which is usually pretty the most common spot. You can actually see a little bit better the shiny portion right there. In terms of the actual frame itself, you probably can see a couple of little nicks over here, the little dots basically. And I've actually carried this keyboard back and forth from home to the workplace a couple of times. Obviously I'm doing the videos, and of course just to demonstrate to other friends of mine who are pretty interested in this after watching that video. And it probably just received a couple of nicks and bumps in my backpack when carrying it, so of course I was just being silly and not even putting any protective covering over it. But this keyboard can definitely take a good pounce and still working really well. I did actually go ahead and clean up the keyboard obviously prior to this video, just to give it a nice look. And one of my family members did actually mention to me when seeing this keyboard, hey Ed, I would really like one of these because of the low profile keys, this thing is so easy to actually clean up, and I can definitely agree with that, using it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Dust is pretty easy to get off this sucker over here, and I absolutely do appreciate that feature over here. Now I'll absolutely go ahead and mention a little issue here as well too with this keyboard. Let me go ahead and just pull out the 121 as well too. You can actually see here. There is also the Vulcan 120, which is basically a gray version of basically the same keyboard, which I actually don't have, using only the 122, the Arctic White, and the 121, the black version right over here. So as I said, this keyboard definitely not as extensively as used as the 122, so a little bit of a shiny effect to some degree, but not by much. You can actually look at the spacebar over here and see there's no glossy kind of effect going on there. And this keyboard actually has been working pretty well. Definitely a matter of preference which color you prefer to use, but they're both basically identical in every way, function and everything else. I haven't seen any chipped keys here, which will probably be a little easier to see here considering the color here, but so far I don't see anything. Actually the light may not be doing this keyboard justice. Let me go ahead and turn it off and take a nice quicker look over here as well too. Yeah, I mean, very minimal glossy kind of shiny feeling. I did actually clean this keyboard a little bit as well too, got all the dust off. Probably one of the easiest ways to clean any keyboard, particularly this one, is to actually use a paintbrush over here. I don't recommend wetting it, though some people will probably put a little bit of moisture on the edges over here. Just wipe it down and use a little paper towel, bounty towel, just to clean it up. Maybe another much more firm towel will probably be a little better, because bounty towels occasionally, depending which quality you're using, can actually leave little specks of white everywhere, and anyone who's done some house cleaning with bounty towels can definitely vouch for that feeling. So I did just turn the computer on that this keyboard is plugged in, so you can actually see the default rainbow color kicking in, and the Swarm software will actually kick in as well too, and give it just a default blue effect that I actually have this keyboard usually set on. And there we go here. I believe it's at pretty much the brightest. I put these keys down here, the up and down, left and right, to regular white color to kind of match these right over here. Just a habit of mine, I guess you can say. I actually use the arrow keys in first-person shooters as opposed to the WASD keys right over here. I'm sure that feeling will probably change at some point, as I've been bouncing between the two of them, so maybe it's just a habit I'm trying to break over here. So one thing I actually have noticed with the Vulcan keyboard, a little issue I had with the 122, and starting to notice over here as well too. As a matter of fact, it might be a little better if I demonstrate the 122 first before demonstrating the issue with the 121. So let me go ahead and plug this in. You can actually have two Vulcan keyboards plugged in at the same time. However, the very first one is the one that's going to inherit the settings from the Swarm software. You can actually see that over here once I plug this one in. And there we go. So the original, this keyboard over here, 121, this has the blue effect, and of course the 122 here, just having your default rainbow effect over here. I want to actually go back on a little issue here. I did very briefly mention this in a last update video of the 122. You can actually see the number lock key over here. But once I turn the cap lock key, you may or may not see the, sorry if that's fuzzy over here, I'm trying to get this to focus a little bit. and you may actually see the difference in illumination there and just the brightness. But here you can actually see a little bit of dimness over here, and it's actually just gotten pretty noticeable and annoying, as I mentioned earlier. So right over here, it may not look so bad. Try to get another close-up. I think over here, despite being a little fuzzy, you can see what I'm talking about. And it almost feels like this key is, to some degree, basically on its way out. I have mentioned this to ROCCAT, and they're going to get back to me. As a matter of fact, they did get back to me and told me that to actually try to give the firmware an update, maybe possibly reload the firmware, which unfortunately did not resolve the issue. And it seems like they're actually going to go ahead and send me out a replacement as long as I go ahead and dispose of this one. Funny instructions there, but you know, it's all good as long as I get a good one. So yeah, that's the only thing I've noticed so far. Everything else, all the keys here look just as bright as they were when I first opened it up. These, no problem at all. They're same brightness as they always have been. Bomb control's working pretty well. So let me go ahead and unplug this and just demonstrate one other thing over here. I like this keyboard so much that guess what? I ended up getting another one. And here we go. So just to prove, I actually have two. There's the one I use at work, I brought home, and here's one I am using here on the second computer. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in as well too, just to give you a demonstration of the difference here. That's kind of tough doing with one hand. I don't recommend it because my first take I actually made the keyboard bounce up and down for a good 1.5 inches over here. Plugging this one in now. And here we have the same rainbow layout over here, but zooming in on the keys down here, I already left them on. Sorry again for the fuzziness. You immediately see the big difference. All keys are pretty much the same brightness. I actually did get this keyboard just a couple of weeks ago for my second PC, and not much extensively used, probably just a little bit more than the 121, but definitely showing no issue over here whatsoever. So I'm just hoping it's for just a goof, maybe just this keyboard had, even though I'm gonna go ahead and focus on the 121 as well too. Same lights and hardly noticeable, but you may or may not see that it is potentially giving me the same issue here. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep an eye on it. And if it does give me the issue, then I just have to reach out to ROCCAT again. I did actually get these two keyboards here and the original 122 here, just around the same time, just both of them from two different retailers. And one of them arrived about 1.5 weeks later. So I would say if there was a bad batch around that time, well, they were bought around the same time. This one I only bought just fairly recently in 2021. So far, working so well. But I will absolutely update if I start to see that being an issue as well too. Now this definitely is not a deal breaker. It doesn't actually ruin the functionality of the keyboard, even though that could probably drive you nuts if you actually do have it on consistently throughout the day. So obviously having paint or chip keys coming off here would definitely be a big deal breaker, just because it just looks ugly. And well, what happened to my G key, what happened to my F key, so that would definitely be an issue. The only other issue I can really mention that was actually resolved fairly quickly is from the 121. When I actually got my hands on it, I noticed that the wrist rest right over here that I'm going to attach magnetically, which I really do like. I hate these clips going underneath because they could break. And who likes to really flip this thing over and have all the keys smushed against the desk? But one of the wrist rests had a little bit of a dent on one of these ends. I believe it was actually this one right over here. And I did mention that to ROCCAT. That was kind of not really holding too well in terms of a magnet. And they just went ahead and sent me out a brand new replacement right there. Just the wrist rest, not the entire unit. Went ahead and plugged in all 3 keyboards this time here. Got all the lights on here as well too, just so everyone can actually just take a quick look at here. And a little bit of comparison as well too. overall, these keyboards are absolutely amazing, and I really look forward to actually getting my hands on a couple more, either as gifts or possibly even used as definitely plan to have one being used on a guest computer that I'm going to have in mind for a living room setup that anyone who comes over can actually use or even game on, or just regular silly browsing and whatnot. And this will actually match the Be Quiet 500 case that I purchased and did a review on earlier in the year. You can definitely check that video out as well too. So just a nice little overall look here of everything. Absolutely, let me know if there is any little inquiry or question you may have about either of these model keyboards or even the 120. I'll be more than happy to give you much advice as I possibly can. And again, just another little close-up view of the 122 that's been used for about, I'd say about 7 to 8 months now. Very extensively used, almost on a daily basis, with the exception of the weekends when, of course, I'm not going to be at work. And I would say I write anywhere between 50 to 200 emails a day, and of course some spreadsheets that I work on myself as well too. Anyway, I hope everyone found this video, pretty short video, hopefully useful. Just another quick follow-up on the keyboards itself. Let me go ahead and just unplug the light so you can take a quick look here of both keyboards not in use whatsoever. And again, I can actually just focus in on that L key that's got that little issue. I'll definitely follow up if that does become an issue here. So definitely check out the description if there's an update as well too for these keyboards. Hope everyone's enjoying your day. Thank you for watching. Absolutely shoot a like and subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. I have received some comments of some people who have mentioned issues with either keyboard or something happening in the past. Reach out to them, reach out to the company and see what they can do for you, particularly if it's still in the warranty. If it's actually an issue that they're aware of, such as that paint key issue, they'll probably still want to help you out anyway, because well, it seems like that may have been some sort of defect that they've somewhat acknowledged previously, and before these were actually purchased. Anyway, take care and thanks again for watching. As always,